All right, so this is mostly for members of my department, just so they know, the crazy things I'm teaching kids, but might also be helpful for students who are reviewing, or maybe for other people out there. I want to start by saying that this is my sort of professional, as it were, take, right? Sort of a restructuring of how we go about approaching the instruction of sentence function. Right, so I'm a little bit of a joke here in the title. There are only 3 types of sentence, right? And here I'm talking with respect to function. When you hear people talk about sentence types, they're usually talking about one of 2 things, either sentence structure. So you might hear someone say there are 4 types of sentence: simple sentences, compound sentences, complex sentences, and compound complex sentences. You may also hear people say there are 4 types of sentences: declarative, interrogative, imperative, and exclamatory. Right? I'm going to make the argument today that actually we should think about sentence function, okay, in terms of 3 foundational types, right? And that the type we know of as the exclamatory sentence is really just an additive layer. So I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. But again, I think it's important for teachers in my department to know sort of how I am approaching this kind of foundational content. So declarative sentences, okay, pretty straightforward. This is the most basic type of sentence function, the one you're going to see most commonly, right? And a declarative sentence makes a statement about the world with a capital W, or the universe, if you'd like to think of it that way, with a capital U, right? It makes a statement, states something as fact, shares an opinion, right? I like pizza, right? The Detroit Lions are not a good football team. I am. Okay, simplest declarative sentence, really, right? I am. I exist. Right? I'm making a statement about the world. Interrogative sentences, these ask questions, right? And if you want a shortcut to sort of remember that these are called interrogative, you can think about the idea of an interrogation. Okay, that's a good connection to the root of that word, right? So an interrogative sentence asks a question: do you like pizza, right? Will the Lions ever be good? Do I exist? Right? You can use interrogative sentences, okay, in rather tricky ways, right? Things that we often, and this is frustrating to me the way we use this term, but things we often label as rhetorical questions. Okay, like, do you think it's a good idea to hit your baby brother in the face? Right? If your parent asks you that, okay, they're probably really just taking a roundabout and sort of passive aggressive way, right, of making a declarative statement. Don't, right? Well, I jumped the gun there, okay? You shouldn't hit your baby brother in the face. Or maybe they're taking a roundabout path to an imperative sentence. Don't hit your baby brother, right? Imperative sentences are the 3rd type. These give commands or orders. A lot of times you can tell that you're looking at an imperative sentence because it will be missing the noun or the pronoun, okay? Eat your pizza, go to bed, don't do that, stop. Right? These are all examples of imperative sentences. If you want a shortcut to remember this, you can think of maybe imperial, the idea of an emperor giving commands, right? Or you can maybe think of the imperious curse, right, from Harry Potter, if that's a foundational text for you, right? But these are the 3 basic functions, okay, of sentences, of statements, of sort of cohesive, complete utterances. Right? Most people, like pretty much everyone, will teach you alongside these that there are also exclamatory sentences, which are sentences that express, okay, an emotion, right? Or otherwise sort of interject a state of feeling or tone or intensity, right? I think that that is actually a sort of regressive and unhelpful way to think of exclamation. I think it is much more sort of helpful and accurate to think of exclamation as an additive layer that you can put on top of any sentence function, right, to give it heightened tone, intensity, or a layer of emotion, right? So if you look at my, right, above 3 sentences, okay, I like pizza, right? If you add an exclamation mark to that, okay, and maybe change it to love, I love pizza, right? Yes, right, I am expressing intensity and emotion, but I'm still making a statement about the world, right? The Lions suck, right? Well, that's rude. Don't say that, okay? But if you put an exclamation mark on the end of that, it's still a declarative sentence. I'm still making a statement about the world. I'm just doing so in a more intense way, right? You can do this with interrogative sentences. Did you just say that to me? Right? Throw a question mark and an exclamation mark on the end of that, or combine them into an interrobang. Okay, you can see how you can take an interrogative sentence and add a layer of exclamation and a layer of emotion on top of it. Right? This is most obvious with imperative sentences. I think go to bed with an exclamation mark. Yeah, that's exclamatory, but to just call it exclamatory and not also see it as imperative is missing a pretty significant point. So it's not that I don't want people to think about exclamatory sentences, or I don't think we should talk about them and teach the ways in which exclamation, okay, can add rhetorical impact or sort of change the way in which a statement is interpreted. I think that's important. But I think if we just start to sort certain sentences into an exclamation category, we are missing the fact that they also always fit into one of the other above three categories. So even a statement like, oh my God, right, or wow, is functioning in a declarative sense because it is making an emotional, right, statement. It is making a statement about your current level of excitement or emotional charge. And you can play around with this, okay, by thinking in the ways that you can add different layers of emotion, or sometimes even false emotion with sort of like a sarcastic, right, exclamation. But there is never a case, right, when an exclamatory sentence doesn't have one of these other three functions. So I think it's actually important in sort of a broader disciplinary sense that we do a better job as English teachers of recognizing the way in which exclamation functions as a secondary layer, right, on top of primary function, right? And now if you look back, okay, at the sentence, right, at the top of this image, right, you can perhaps see, okay, the joke that I am making here. That is clearly a declarative sentence. I am making a statement about the world, whether or not you agree with it, right? But it is also exclamatory, right? Because I've used that good old exclamation mark to let you know that I really mean it with some intensity. So there you are. That is a little mini lesson, okay, a little mini dissertation on my sort of philosophical, pedagogical, practical, right, approach to teaching sentence type in terms of function. So thank you, everyone. See you next time.